Okay, time for another quick video. Today I've got a surprise that nobody was expecting, and it's not the 1254. Just a quick explanation of what's going on today and yesterday. So yesterday was a pretty nice day out. Today's the first day of what is it called, spring equinox or something like that. Basically, what's happening today is we have equal amount of sunlight and equal amount of dark, like 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of dark. So we're starting to change weather here, springtime. Things are starting to thaw out. Today's supposed to be a pretty warm day, so I'm gonna get out here and peel layers as the day goes on, but it's quite cold, brisk this morning. Everything is frozen still overnight, but I'm working out in the backyard still, cleaning up a bunch of stuff. So you can see there's my temporary shop. I'm working on all kinds of stuff. So I've got tools, air compressor, lawnmower parts, extra starters sitting around. Got my voltmeter, my stringer trim line, another starter, some wire brushes, various types of wire brushes, some extra ball hitches, my winch that I pulled off of the 750, some wheel weights, and then I've got the wheel adapters for the dual wheels. I've got my little chain winch right here, which is really nice. It's a ratcheting winch, so I can hook it up and pull things if I need to, shorten or lengthen the chain. I think that's rated at a couple hundred pounds, maybe. I don't know, but this chain isn't not very big, but it's pretty heavy duty stuff. So I'm going through everything in the back still and just trying to get everything consolidated. I'm having to get rid of a lot of machines that I don't use anymore. So yesterday I started tearing down this Toro and breaking it down. It's kind of where I'm at. I'll finish this in the next hour or two, where I get all this parts broken down and parted out. So got a good mowing deck. I pulled this Kohler motor off of there. It's a 12.5 command, 12.5 horsepower overhead valve. That's a good motor, but basically this engine was bad on this one, so I put this motor on there. However, because the exhaust port is at the bottom, I could never quite get an exhaust on here, so it ran and it was just loud and it wasn't very nice. But that was on there temporarily. I don't need this anymore. I don't use it anymore, so it's time to get rid of it, break it down, get rid of it. That's kind of my main chore the last 2 days, but I got other things going on also. Like I said, there's a good deck there. I'm just kind of making my way over there. So what else did I do? So basically it's springtime. I'm trying to get ready for the season coming up. This is a yard machine, Briggs & Stratton, 4.5, I think, horsepower this is. It's a 4 horsepower, 22-inch cut. And I need junk mowers like that, or really lightweight, simple. So I've stripped this all down to where it just has a speed controller on the back there, and then it starts and runs, and then that's it. In fact, I think I have to pull the spark plug off of this one to shut it down. I'm not sure, I forgot about that, but that's running good. I need that because I have hills in the front of my house. Well, the front of the house and the back. I have flat parts, but I also have hills. So I need these cheap, lightweight mowers like this, at least one of them around working. I like to have two, so I can do hills, so they're easy to push up and down the hills, blah blah blah. So in the meantime, I had three of them, and in various states of performance, of course. This engine I had, this is an 8.5 horsepower 850EX Briggs & Stratton, 190 cc's. This is a good, really good motor that I had, and I've been kind of saving it for the right purpose. And one thing I really have a big problem with is starting things. Not that it's always a problem to start them. The problem is I hate pulling on ropes all day long trying to start a machine. So I try to keep all my machines where they're pretty quick, 1 or 2 pulls and they're ready to go. So this is one of those mowers that I knew the engine was reliable like that. So I took off, somewhere around here there's a motor. Let's see, there it is. This is a 4.5 or 5 horsepower Briggs motor that was on there originally, and it ran fine, but the shroud on the top was becoming, well, basically it hooks up over here, it hooks up over here, and it hooks up in the back, and the shroud itself was just a problem. Actually, I'll show it right here. These tabs, like the places where the shroud holds on, they got torn out and ripped the metal and stuff. So whenever you go to try to pull start it, the whole shroud would come off. And I've had that mower probably 5 or 10 years, I don't know, it's kind of old. So instead of continuing to try to go through crap with that, I decided to get rid of that motor and put this motor on, and it starts and runs really good. It's only like 9 or so o'clock in the morning, so I won't start it right away, but I will start motors. So that's what's going on there. Got those 2 motors going really strong, and those mowers, I just need them to do hills and stuff around my property, and so I've got those going. But here's a surprise today, and it kind of does relate to Bolins and tractors and stuff like that, but it's a special surprise. Again, I'm cleaning up everything. I got canoes around me. I got, here's my, excuse me, here's my stack of tires that I have, and these are all Jacobsen wheels, like I've talked about in prior videos. This rim is called a Jacobsen rim, I believe. And so I've got several sets of those tires. All these that I have here are turfs right here on this pile, but I do have some other AGs around. But yeah, so here I am. This is my point of doing this whole video. I'm gonna have to pull this out, of course, at some point soon here, maybe tomorrow, this week. But one of my projects is this. This is really hard to see. This is one of the, I believe, a Kenmore. This is like a wood chipper. Basically put the motor on the front, got a belt, and then on the inside of this, they actually have chains. You can see that somebody decided to move in there for the winter, but you can see there's a bearing here. Inside of there they have chains that swing around, and those chains create mulch. Then it kicks it out the back. So that's in the way, of course, of this video, but this machine here, this is the motor here. This is a raspberry picker, I believe is the right word for it. And this used to be used at the farm out in Illinois. I stopped using it some time ago, and I've been sitting here contemplating what to do with it because it's not really used anymore, and technology has come such a long way that they aren't really, I don't know, they're just not productive machinery like they used to be back in the day. It was kind of like this was your choice, that you had this to pick your raspberries, but not many other choices that were really set up for that specific job. So since then, so many other machines and attachments have come a long way, in that you could probably use your four-wheeler or something like that to go out there in the fields and do your work. I don't know what that industry is like at this point, but at one time this was a raspberry picker, and it's going to be hard to show this, but I'll show it anyway. This is a steel frame right here, and it has expanded metal all the way across it, basically like a barbecue grill. And the purpose for that is when you pick your berries, you set those trays on this expanded steel back here, and then I'm going to step on it. This is another portion where you can see a little bit better. You can steel, this is really, really heavy duty steel frame here. This is really, really nicely heavy duty built American made stuff, farm machinery. So the deal with this is set your tray there. There's another tray there, but that doesn't really belong there. So what this bar does, this is a 2-inch square bar. It's 3/16 inch steel and heavy duty stuff. So what that does is, that's kind of the main part of the frame, I would say, and then everything else kind of extends away from that. So for example, this is what I would call an outrigger right here. This is actually a seat goes on here, and everybody has seen the type of seats that go on here, the old steel ones. I have that one there, but that's not the one. It's the old steel ones. So this one, you can see, has a bolt in the middle. Basically what you do with this is you attach it like that, and it's so strong you just put a pin through it, and then you sit on this seat. And what this does is it allows you to sit away from the machine. Wherever your raspberries are, this allows you to sit above them. So this is an outrigger that extends past the machine, away from the machine, where you can pick that specific row as you're driving down the row. Okay, so there's a couple of those for seats. So let me go back around here again. So this piece right here is sitting right here where it doesn't really belong there. What belongs there is, I have a piece like that one, like that outrigger there, that goes right here, and it has a seat that goes right here. That's where the driver sits. Now, like I said, this thing's in the way, so don't worry about that, but basically the driver sits there. I'll try to get a better position here. So the driver sits on a seat. This extra tray is not in this way right here. And then, as you're sitting in its position, the engine is right on your right hand side here. So, being the driver here, you have to control the engine, steering, etc. So, let me go through those controls right quickly. So if you're sitting, as you're sitting here in the seat here, right here, there's a throttle control right here, up and down. Then right below that, there's a handle. That's actually your brake. So you need to be able to stop this machine. I'd say it weighs several hundred pounds, maybe 1,000 pounds. It's very heavy duty steel stuff. So there's your controls there, and then there's your gear shifter, and I would call that the dash there, but we'll get more into that later. We'll come back to those details more later. So as you're sitting here, your brake push down, you got your brake, you got your throttle. Then here's a really interesting part about this, the most interesting part I think. This tube here comes out. This is a 2-inch round tube, and it goes forward to the front wheel. There's a single front wheel right here. It's actually AG tire. Then the linkage goes to here, and these pieces right here are actually your feet steering. So as you're sitting right here, your feet extend up, 1 foot over there, 1 foot over there, and you actually steer this machine with your 2 feet like this. Just like that, and then that linkage goes over to the front wheel. This is just a 2-inch steel pipe welded right there, and that's the only attachment to this machine, but it's so strong that this does not wobble or stray in any way. This is really heavy duty stuff. Like just the fork up there has a single-sided fork with a, that looks like 1/2 inch steel, which is really heavy duty stuff. So that's the really interesting part about this machine. I'll try to get it out and get a better view of this later, but this is where I'm at today. I had time to do this morning. So there are, like I said, there are other outriggers. I've got other attachments that go on this machine as needed, and I'm not sure if this is going to be thought out, but you can see a couple other pieces in here. Here's another one here. That one is for somebody's feet. This one is for, I believe, yeah, this is for someone else's feet also. So as you're sitting out on the outside perimeter of something, that's where your feet would be. These are part of it also, and I don't remember off the top of my head what these are right now. These are part of the setup that allows you to adjust adjustments. That's what all those holes are. And I don't think I've used those before, but they're part of the machine and they go with it. Heavy duty stuff. These are 3/8 inch steel with 3/4 inch holes in them. So they're made for heavy duty use. Okay, so let's get back to the engine and what makes this kind of relevant to Bohlins and all that other stuff. So this is a Kohler, and it is called a, I'm going to try to get the number there. It's called a K141S. Hopefully you can see that on that label there. I don't have a very good view from it. Yeah. K141S, serial number 3177032. Now I haven't seen any videos on YouTube about either one about the raspberry picker or a K141S. I've seen a K141T, but I have not seen a K41S. And the only difference that I'm seeing right at this point, well, I can't say the only difference. I think that the muffler and stuff is kind of set up differently, but I think the difference between my engine and the K141S is that I have an electric starter on mine, which is really nice. So let me try to show this setup over here on this side of the engine. I have to be really careful out here. This is pretty dangerous territory. So there's a Kohler, believe this is my mounting for my gas tank, I believe. I've got that over there, also, actually over there, and the bracket for it. But this is different than a K141T. I believe the 141T has the recoil starter on it. And if you're watching this and you know differently, please do say so, and that will inform other people the truth. So here's what I got. I've got a starter button over here, and I've got a shut off button here. So this is just a push start. Got the coil. The condenser are showing. Let's see if I can take a shortcut over this way. I did check the points yesterday, and I got those in good shape, I think. Here are the points access. There's a screw here and a screw down below, and then a wire that comes out going to the coil, I believe. So this is how mine is set up. This, like I said, this is like my dash here. This is the stick shift. Okay, so where do I start? I'm gonna continue with the engine. The engine is a I want to say 6.25 horsepower is what they're rated at. And I'll talk more about that, but this machine does not have a clutch on it. Excuse me, to disengage the drive. But what it does have to compensate for that is it does have a centrifugal clutch here. This is a double belt 5L belt, heavy duty stuff. So even though this is a 6.25 horsepower, it's got a double 5L belt drive on it. So you think, well, why does it need those big heavy belts on a 6 horsepower motor? Well, I can tell you that this motor, even though it's only 6.25 horsepower, with those two 5L belts on there, down to the transmission, this thing is really, it really transfers the power of that engine into the wheels really, really well and efficiently. There's not a whole lot of extra moving parts along the way, idler pulleys and jack shafts and stuff like that. So when I drive this thing, it's amazingly powerful. I was really surprised about the power coming out of this motor to drive this machine. So when you consider there's 3 people sitting on the machine's already like 1,000 pounds. There's 3 people sitting on the machines, and as we go along the crops, we pick the berries and then we put trays of berries. So this cart could be stacked up several feet high with berries and stuff with crates on it, including 3 people in the machine and everything. And this is only a 6.25 horsepower. It does really well. Next point about that is important, is that the transmission, I don't know what that is, and I'm gonna have to get that sooner or later. Once I get this open and get this out, I'll get some more information on what the transmission is. But this transmission is a 6-speed, and your controls up here so that you have access to it as a driver. This is a 6-speed transmission. That thing is no joke, and I think, I could be wrong about this, I believe that this thing gets up to probably 10 miles per hour, and I know that because I've driven it many times. But I think that the purpose of that highest gear is, once you've gathered all your crops out on the farmland, you've got to go a far way back to the harvesting area. I'm sorry, back to the drop site. And so I believe that the 6th gear really is only for when you're just moving freight quickly over a long distance. Other than that, it's not really useful in the field per se. You wouldn't want to go that fast in the field, but I believe it's just for once you get everything picked, it's just to return back to the barn. But I will say, being on this thing, having one front wheel and the foot steering pedals, when you get in 6th gear and you throttle this thing up, it is cray. Dude, it's crazy. Like, you have to be in a big field in order to operate it. It's pretty big girth. I'd say it's 6 feet wide, about 14 feet long, and you need a lot of room to drive this thing. And if you get in 6th gear, it gets pretty hairy pretty quickly. So you have to be out in a big area when you're driving this thing. Now mind you can crawl your way through areas, but that's not the practical use of this thing. The practical use of this thing is to go out to a field and pick stuff and bring it back. So 6th gear on this thing is crazy, and the 6.5 or 6.25 horsepower coming out of here is crazy also. I was really surprised to find out that this only had 6.5 horsepower, because to me, driving this thing for the many times that I did, this really felt like a 10 or a 12 horsepower because of what it was, the work it was doing. Super strong engine. And I'll go back. I think that one of the main reasons that this engine gets so much performance for the job at hand is because of this double belt drive. And I believe that this double belt drive just does not allow it to slip. So every ounce of energy that engine's putting out is making it to the wheels, where if that was a single 4L belt drive, there might be some slippage and you probably go through some belts. But the way this is set up, it's really, really nice. So I'm going to quickly try to start this thing up and just show it running. That's a little complicated, so I'll have to set this down. When I looked here this morning, I was looking up here, and there's some animal brush and nuts and walnuts and stuff that squirrels and stuff started to move in. So I'm going to try to find a camera spot here right quick and set this up so I can show this running. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to hook this up. I've got this negative to the negative. Now another thing is this is set up for a car battery. It's not set up for a lawn tractor battery. So you can see the terminals are made for a car battery. Then this sits in and has a steel that supports it, and it basically holds that battery right there. No cover, no nothing, just supports around it. So then turn the ignition on. This is an on-off switch right here, and then I've got my power start button. Got my start button. So I'm gonna, because I don't have the fuel tank on right now, I've just got this open fuel line. I'm gonna get it to it eventually, but I took this off for some reason. This raspberry picker is probably going away. I don't know if I'm gonna sell it like it is as a raspberry picker or what I'm gonna do, but my intention was, after it got retired from the farm and it's no longer useful, was I wanted to get all these great parts off of it, like this Kohler engine. This transmission down below here is amazing. Now, I'm going to go back to that right quick, just quickly. So, this transmission, if I had to guess, I would say it's the same thing maybe used on a Cub Cadet. I'm not sure, because these are not popular things, you don't know, but basically it comes out here to what I would call the wheel hub, or the axle bearing right here, and then it extends out another 2.5 feet from here. So there's a coupler in here to extend this axle, and my intention was to get this transaxle off of here, get rid of this coupler, and use this whole unit over here on another tractor, which I could do. It's going to be a while before I even consider doing anything like that, but let's see what we can do about getting this engine started up. So here's how I do things. I went to the dollar store. I got this little sprayer here that's leaking right now, but basically what I do is just give it a quick squirt in the carburetor there. Then I'll go to start it, see what happens. So there we go. Okay, so it's gonna start up really quick, surprisingly. We'll see what happens here. I might have flooded it, I don't think. We'll see. So that's just an idle. And I just keep putting a little bit of fuel in there. Throttle it up a little bit so that doesn't. So this is a great running engine. You can see it really wants to run. Once I get the fuel tank back on there, it's going to run great. So this is how I do it. Shut down. That's a great running engine. And another thing I really like is that it's electronic start. So that's pretty much the story on that thing. This is one of my better motors. I really love this old motor. Just really consistent, reliable. So running great. As you saw, I use this thing and I just kind of squirted in the carburetor. That's just kind of what I do whenever I start things up for the first time for the next year. I'll just spray a mist in there and get things warmed up before spring comes around and I start using my machines. So that's pretty much the extent of this video. I can show, maybe help identify this rear end. I've got the brake lever that comes back to a linkage here, another linkage here, and then this brake is actually on the right rear wheel here. There is not one on the left wheel. So the right rear wheel is the only wheel that has brakes on it. And then the left rear wheel lines up in the exact same line as the front wheel for the purpose of your crops, and you have to have these tires spaced perfectly apart for your crop rows. This one is specifically set up for raspberries, I believe, and I'm like 99% sure this is called a raspberry picker, but it doesn't actually pick raspberries. It just hauls them and hauls people around to pick them. So once I get this out and get this further along, like I said, my intention is that this is going to be gone eventually. I don't use it, don't need it anymore. It would be nice if it was useful for something like picking raspberries still, but it just isn't. It's like technology has come so far. But if I ever get this out again, well, actually I'm going to really soon, but if I ever get this out and use it and do any projects on it, I'll come back to it. But my point about this video for the most part is to show this K141S motor, and like I said, I think the only difference really between the S and the T is that I've got an electronic starter on mine. And if you know any differently, please do say so in the comments. Yeah, so that's about it on that. I'm gonna shut that down. Okay, so I'm going to end this video. I got plenty of work to do. It's starting to warm up. The ground is starting to thaw out, so I got to change shoes and get ready for it to get muddy out here. Got the John Deere 100, I've got the videos about that. That's got the 20 horsepower dual exhaust. That thing sounds like a Harley Davidson motorcycle when you're running it. Got the 1050 covered up. The 1254s run great. I've been using this all week, just moving things around. So that's about it. I just wanted to show that Kohler engine for the most part. And as I get more access to it, I'll probably do another video later about it. So that's my surprise for today, is that Kohler K141S engine.